We're so glad to have you here. We have a very special guest preacher here with us today, Dr. Dave Hardy. Excited to get to introduce you to him. And so Brother Ben is going to come and lead us here in a song. Come on in and find your seats. And Brother Ben, tell us what we'll be singing.
Well, if you are able to, stand with me. We're going to start off this morning. We're going to sing Jesus is All the World to Me. You should have the words here behind me so that you don't have to grab a hymnal. We're going to sing Jesus is all the world to me, my life, my joy, my all. Let's lift it up here on the first now. Jesus is all the world to me, my life, my joy, my all. He is my strength from day to day. Without him I would go. When I am sad, to him I go. No other one can cheer me so. When I am sad, he makes me glad. He's my friend, amen. Jesus is all the world to me, my friend and child soul. I go to him for blessings and he gives them more and more. When I am lost in the rain, he sends the harvest pouring rain, sunshine and rain, harvest of grain. He's my friend, amen. On that third verse now, Jesus is all the world to me, and true to him I'll be. Oh, how could I this friend deny when he's so true to me? Following him I know I'm right. He watches over me day and night. Following him by day and night. He's my friend, amen. Jesus is all the world to me. I want no better friend, amen. I trust him now, I'll trust him when life's fleeting days shall end. Beautiful life with such a friend, beautiful life that has no end. Eternal life, eternal joy, he's my friend. Amen. If that's true this morning, say amen. Amen. Now we're going to sing Who is on the Lord's Side? Who's on the Lord's side? Who will serve the King? Let's lift it up now. Who is on the Lord's side? Who will serve the King? Who will be his helpers, others' lives to bring? Who will be on the Lord's side? Who will face the foe? Who is on the Lord's side? Who for him say amen. Man, good singing. You can be seated.
Well, it is so great to have you here today, and welcome to Calvary Baptist Church. We're very excited to have the Hardys here with us, and I'll introduce him before he comes to preach here in just a moment. But if you're here with us for the first time, thank you so much for coming. We've got at least a family that got a chance to meet Johnny, Cash, and Shelby. Is that right? Okay, thanks for coming. Good to see you guys here. Really glad to have you here. And then Corey, good to see you again. So glad to have you here today. If you got one of our guest cards, you can fill it out. Normally you drop it in the offering plate when it goes by, but the offering plate's not going by. And so we'll have a time of offering. If you want to come drop your card up in the front, you can. And if not, you're in America, you can do really whatever you like. But keep everything else. It's our gift to you. And we're so glad to have you here. Just want to ask you if you could remember to keep Scott Crawford in prayer. He goes in for surgery on Tuesday to remove cancer from his jaw, so if you could remember him in prayer. I know he and his wife would really appreciate that very much. We're going to go ahead and pray, ask the Lord's blessing, and then receive the offering. And if you'd like to give, the offering plates will be here up at the front. Lord, thank you again for the day. Thank you for the chance to be here. Lord, we love you, and we're so thankful for the chance to gather together. Thank you for each and every person here today. I pray you would bless the offering, and I pray you bless the gift and the giver. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's go ahead and stand one more time if you're able to. We're going to sing Jesus Paid It All to Him I Owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, He washed it white as snow. On this verse now. I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to Him I owe. here on this last verse, and then whenever we get to the chorus, we're going to sing it a cappella now. And when before the throne I stand in complete, Jesus died my soul to save. My lips shall still be amen. Lift it up now. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Amen. You know what? We're going to sing that one last time now on that chorus. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Amen. Good singing. You can be seated.
Right after the special, we are going to have a message from Brother Dave Hardy. He was pastor of the Eastland Baptist Church for 30 years in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and was served in the military. God's used him in a number of ways. He taught at the same college where I graduated from, taught preaching. And there are some people who, to me, their own presence is its own message in and of itself. Their own life is its own epistle already written. And I feel that way about Brother Hardy. Every time I get to spend time with him, it's just convicting to be around him. And maybe that's why it's been so long since he came. I felt so bad after he came the first time. But he's been, I'm just kidding. He's been tremendous encouragement and blessing. His wife has been a great friend and help to my wife. And so we're so thankful for him. You'll hear him when he preaches. I hope you give him a good ear. But every time that he opens the Word of God, God always speaks to my heart and has always been a help and an encouragement. And God's just used him to lead an incredible church, to do wonderful things. And my goal was always, if the Lord would let me, to go to a place and stay there for time, say 30 years. And so people that did that have always been really heroes to me. And Brother Hardy did just that, and I've always looked up to him, admired him, the way that he handled his time there and the way that he left the church so strong, and the church has continued to flourish since he's left, and he's just continued to be an encouragement everywhere that he goes. I hope you give him a good ear, and I know you'll be glad that you did, and he'll come preach for us right after we have the special.
You
If you drink this living water, you won't have to thirst again. He's been waiting by the wellside, knowing you'd be passing by. So take advantage of the moment. He's not gone, he's still waiting by the well. So take advantage of the moment. He's not gone, he's still waiting by the well. He's not gone, he's still waiting by the well.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate godly music. And most all the churches we get to have it are, they figured out who we are and they don't like for us to come, knowing we don't like anything but godly music. And I apologize for my voice every time I get up, especially in the mornings. I don't know why it takes so long to wake up. My wife says not to say this, but the men will be okay. Why could Timothy have wine for his stomach? I couldn't have some moonshine or something for my voice because it just is never clear in the morning. I don't know if any of you have sinus problems and so forth, but if you do, then we're bound to be related. It's really a privilege to be back. I was looking through my notes, Pastor. It was 2009, the last time we were here. My wife, Grace, we have knocked out 58 years and working on 59 right now. That's been a real joy. As the pastor said, I pastored at Eastland Baptist Church for 30 years and then kind of been on the road for 16 years now. I'm not really an evangelist. I'm a pastor at heart. And I loved pastoring 30 years. I just knew it was time for another man to come. And this machine out here, that's Barnabas. And we adopted Barnabas when he was 14 years old, and now he's 15. You know, when you adopt somebody when they're 14, it takes a lot of years to get that thing straight. And there's two things about motorhomes that's always true. One is they're not designed to work on. You can't get to anything. And we've got some followers here. And number two, there's never a day on earth they don't need something. Yes. They're like, the needs of a motorhome are like the mercies of God. They're new every morning. I mean, there's a list every single day. And then we pull a little Honda CR-V that we called Barney. Barnabas weighs 34,000 pounds. Barney weighs 2,900, and he does everything Barnabas says, you know, without any kind of trouble with it. So thanks for the opportunity, Pastor, and thanks for the great music. Love to see families working together, serving the Lord. Family is just special. And, of course, God's family is special, too. I pretty much grew up an only child. You say, what do you mean pretty much? Well, when I was 14, my sister popped out, and nobody expected her to show up. And she did, but when she was 3, I went off into the Navy on the submarines and so forth. And so most of it's by myself. And I was lonely. But when I got saved at 14 years of age, everything, oh, wow, thank you very much. I don't like to drink in a pulpit because it makes everybody thirsty, but if I have to keep from not being able to talk, then I'll do it. It's very thoughtful of you doing that. Well, let me invite you to Matthew chapter 5 this morning. Matthew chapter 5. We're going to read verses 13 through 16, but we're only going to deal with verse 13. The reason being they just go together. It's what people call the salt and the light text, and we're just going to deal with salt. And also I wanted to mention too, this is somewhat of a two-part message. We're going to pretty much take care of this verse this morning, but tonight we're going to be in the Old Testament, and to let you see this great truth in verse 13 lived out in the lives of people. Now I remember one time preaching from this text, and a young lady who just graduated from high school, had just started college, after the service said, Brother Hardy, I'd sure like to see that fleshed out. I said, well, I'm glad you said that because we're going to do that tonight. The greatest commentary on the Bible is the Bible. And it's just good to find that. And it's been a blessing to me, and I trust that it will be a blessing to you as well. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. If you can stand in honor of the Word of God, and if you cannot, the Lord knows it's not for me. It's for Him. We never can do enough for Him. When we can bow before Him, bow. If you can stand for Him, stand. If you can say a good word for Him, say it. When you go eat something, bow your head and let people know that you know where it came from. And, it's just great to do because we can do pitiful little for Him compared to what He did for us. Amen? Pitiful little, so it's always great when we can. So if you'll just follow along silently as I read audibly here. Verse 13, ye are the salt of the earth. Now the next word is kind of really puts us in a bind, but I love the first part. You're the salt of the earth. That's a good thing. And I wish we could just stop and all would be good. And he's talking to his disciples, and that's what you and I long to be. He said, well, can't you just choose to be one? Well, you got to qualify for it. And not everybody just claims it can be it. And we'll not talk about that much right now. You're the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and be trodden under foot of men. You're the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege. I don't just say that. So thankful for God's people. What a lonely world it would be for me without God's people. What a great time of fellowship we had with Pastor and Charity and the kids over supper last night. Thank you, Lord, for a family that's very obvious, happy and serving you. And I sense it here in the church this morning. And the scripture says, our spirits bear witness with your spirit that we're the children of God, but our spirits bear witness with each other too. And I sense a good spirit here. And yes, most churches do, but it's just really a good spirit. And I hope that the people here will realize what they have, a great blessing. And now I pray that you would illumine our hearts and minds to understand Bible truth. We're so thankful for absolute truth. The world doesn't know necessarily or doesn't agree that we have it, but we do have it, and easily proven. So have your perfect way, and as we learn Bible truth, then we realize it's incumbent on us that we adhere to it so that we might receive the blessings you have for us. A great old song, trust and obey, trust and obey. Know it and then do it, trust and obey. No other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Help us, Lord, we pray, and whatever can be accomplished by our being together, we'll give you all the glory and all the praise, and we ask it in our most gracious name, and for Christ's sake, amen. And you may be seated. So I pastored Eastland Baptist Church for 30 years, and I know you've already heard that, and I stepped out in 2003. And I had planned to be on the road all the time. Brother Durrell, who's the young pastor now, said, well, Pastor, I'd like you to remain a member of the church for 3 years if you wouldn't mind. I've always kind of felt like it's good for the older guy to get out of the way and let the young guy go ahead and do his thing. And he was trying to raise money for the next building. I said, that'll be fine, but I won't be here very much because I've already got obligations. So that's fine. I'd just like you to still be part, of the church. So in January of 2004, that was in June of 2003, January of 2004, my wife and I happened to be in Tulsa that weekend, and we were free. My son pastors in Stillwater. Some of you have been to Men's Advance, and I've met you there. And we thought, well, let's go to Stillwater for church Sunday morning. We've not been there in a long time. I'd like to see our son and our daughter-in-law, but really primarily want to see the grandkids. Anybody understand that, just a little bit? And so we decided to do that, and we'd get up early and go get something to eat and then drive on over to Stillwater. And so my wife said, well, can I pick the breakfast place? And I don't usually like for her to pick the breakfast place, but I want to be fair about it. You know, breakfast to me is like eggs, ham, biscuits, and gravy, and grease, and all the stuff that comes with it. And she wants to go to Panera Bread Company and eat a bagel. For God's sake, you know. How could a man work all day after eating a bagel, you know? So we went. But the Lord was in it. And I hope he doesn't get me for accusing him of that. The Lord was in it. We're dressed for church. We're at a little table having coffee and eating a bagel. And a man walks up to that table where we're seated. And I've never seen him before. As far as I know, he's never seen us before. And he just stood there. And I looked up at him and he asked me this question. He said, "What's wrong with churches today?" Well, now, I wasn't expecting a pop quiz. I thought I'd gone to have breakfast, you know. But I kind of heard myself saying, well, I think it's because churches today are economically driven instead of theologically driven. In other words, so someone says, what do you mean by that? Well, really, the church is what it does and how it works, totally supposed to be based on this book. It is run somewhat like a business, but our business is not primarily economics. It is not building the biggest place with the most people, although every soul is important that Christ died for. Don't misunderstand me. But I hate to see the churches move into the entertainment industry just in order to get the money and to get the crowd. So anyway, and he just said, yeah, and then he walked off. Now, I feel like the man was a lost man. I can't guarantee that. But again, I think our spirits do bear witness with each other, and sometimes you just maybe have that feeling. You said, that's kind of weird, isn't it? I said, yes, but it gets a little more weird. It was about 3.5 months after that we were in Temecula, California at Calvary Baptist Church. Brother Bill Rinch is a pastor. And I think it was Thursday morning. We were going to do a missions conference Wednesday through Sunday. And my wife said, well, I just want to kind of get out a little bit. Let's just go to the mall. Would you go to the mall with me? Well, I don't have any reason on earth to go to a mall, especially since Sears is gone and there's no Craftsman tools. I mean, what's a man going to do at a mall? But I decided to go with her because there was a coffee shop. We're getting a little bit closer, you know. And so I said, I tell you what, baby, you go to all these stores, and I'll check on you every now and then. And I had a book to read. I'm going to read a little bit here, and then have a cup of coffee. So I'm having coffee. And this is what really is kind of weird, is a man walks up I'd never seen before. And I think, Pastor, it's verbatim. If it was not, it was close. What's wrong with churches today? And I had my answer, and he walked off. You said, how many times did that happen? 2, and that's enough. Because I can get a little bit spooky after just a little while. But you know, that is in my mind, and it's going to be there forever. Now, I know we're not in the text, but I've got to preface it just a little bit more. Now, the church I got saved in when I was 14 in Arlington, Texas, a big Sunday for us would be 40. We were really excited if we had 35, 30 people come on Sunday. In fact, as nearly all the churches I was familiar with, and I wasn't raised in a Baptist church. My wife's stepbrother invited me to come. I'd never been in a Baptist church, and I'm not down on somebody else. My business is not knocking everybody else. My job is preaching the Bible. But my parents went to the Church of Christ, and that's what I grew up in. And they're great teachers in a lot of ways. They got some doctrinal issues that certainly I can't agree with. But there's a little difference in teaching and preaching. Teaching is a dissemination, just getting information out, dissemination. I'm trying to say it right, getting information out. And then preaching has to do getting information out and hoping somebody makes a decision as a result, and that you could see that happen. But when I was a kid, most of the churches were small. And yes, there were churches larger than that, but not like what we have now. And when I was a kid, there was no such thing as Christian TV. When I was a kid, there wasn't much in the way of TV. And some of y'all would remember that. I'm glad to have somebody that knows what a number 3 wash tub is. I think some folks here know. And probably if you weren't baptized in one, it may not even be scriptural. I don't even know about that. So anyway, those churches were small, and we didn't have Christian TV, and we didn't have Christian radio, which now there's so many Christian radio stations are hard to number. But back then they did buy time on the radio station, and preachers would preach. And I heard some preachers preach on a radio station out of Del Rio, Texas, when I was a kid, because they had their transmitter over the line in Mexico, and that thing would burn your antenna off your car for about 500 miles. It was really powerful. But those were pretty good days. I went to Nally Elementary School when I was a young kid. And just a couple of blocks down the road, a gravel road I walked on, and no, I didn't walk barefoot in the snow, so none of that kind of stuff. I remember Mrs. Young, one of the teachers I remember so far back, and when we went to school every morning, the first thing we'd do is stand and pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. With pride, I'd almost cry. My dad's a World War II veteran. And then you know what we did? Standing, everybody in class, and it wasn't optional, we recited the Lord's Prayer. Now, we're talking public school. On my teacher's desk was a King James Version of the Bible, public school. And if she wanted to illustrate anything in literature, then she used that Bible. That's not bad. None of us did any shopping on Sunday, and we didn't play ball on Sunday. Fact is, we didn't play ball on Wednesday night because it was church night, even though it wasn't Sunday. And the biggest problem we had in high school back then, bubble gum, because they was always sticking it under their seats. There's enough bubble gum under there to choke a cow. Bubble gum under the seat and horseshoe touts. And then people, they don't know what a horseshoe tout. You know what a horseshoe is? Okay. It's small, it goes here, and we would click those things down the hallway and scar up the stuff, and that was the two biggest problems in high school. A little different now, isn't it? I kind of liked America back then a whole lot, and I love America now. But now let's think about it this way. Do you know right now while we're meeting that there are churches having, I don't know about the virus, but other than that, there'll be churches having services with 20,000 people in attendance on the same piece of dirt. And churches all over the place, so much larger than the ones I've talked about and larger than yours. And now we have not only Christian TV, but Christian TV networks. And like I said, right now, there's just a countless number of Christian radio stations. So when you go from what we had back then into the affluence that Christians have today, things ought to be better. I mean, this is only a 6 7/8 head, about the size of a 6-year-old boy. I'm just serious. If I'm not reasoning, then talk to me so I can understand. Things should be better. Are they? This appears to me maybe losing America as a Christian nation without question is taking place. Well, let me read to you out of Encyclopedia Britannica, because sometimes people don't like preacher talk real good, so let me just read out of Britannica. And this is the place of Baptists in early America. It says, quote, "The true significance of a people is determined not so much by their number as by their influence on the society of which they are a part." Are we grabbing that? It's not how many you have, it's how much influence you have, because there weren't very many back then. It says, "The disciplinary functions of local congregations on the frontier contributed," and here's a word I like, "immeasurably to the moral quality of growing communities. The ideal of holy living, which was kept before church members, exerted a tempering influence upon standards of ethical conduct in American business and American politics." How much influence we got now? Well, you say, what's the answer in our text? You're the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is good for nothing but cast out and be trodden underfoot of men. Now, he's talking to his disciples, and when he's talking about the salt of the earth. Now, just think about that word salt for a moment. I like salt. You like salt? I like salt. I mean, if I've got a steak, if they haven't done it, and if they have, it's probably going to get some more. It's going to get salt. God forbid that I eat a hamburger without salt and pepper on it. I got to have, especially salt, but I got to have some pepper. I like salt on my watermelon, salt on cantaloupe. I've got relatives here. I just see heads going. I mean, I like it on cucumbers. You know, I don't know if I heard anything I don't like it on. And I like it on peaches or plums. I put salt in my coffee when I make it. And some say, what would you do that for? Why you put it on a hamburger? So I want you to understand salt just a little. So let me give you some qualities of salt. And I would hope, like me, you think, thank God that God makes me salt. First of all, salt enhances. Isn't what I was just talking about? You know, if you go in the service or maybe even go to Bible college and all you've eaten are meals at home, and then all of a sudden you go where you have institutional meals, and the first time you put a bite of that in your mouth and you're thinking, you know, what kind of stuff is this? Because it's not seasoned right. You can't season it for everybody. You've got too many people there. But salt enhances. In other words, salt makes everything it touches when it comes to food, it makes it better. Well, it makes my coffee better. It makes my food better. I like it. Now think about, what does that mean? If we are salt and all of us are just a grain of salt, then this is a salt shaker. And we're all in here. But about tomorrow morning, we're going to shake you all out. And we're going to be out all over the salt of the earth. Isn't that the way you do it on the table? Pick up the salt shaker, you got a salad, you got a steak, you got vegetables. I forgot broccoli. Do you know you can't put enough salt on broccoli? You can might near bury that stuff in salt, and it's still kind of hard to do anything with it. But it enhances. Well, I'm not saying the hardest do everything right, but I sure do love that woman more than and I thought I've loved her as much as I could early on, but it seemed like I love her more all the time. We have a great time together. Not everybody has that. I'm not fussing about it. I'm just saying that if there's somebody, maybe there's a young man and his wife, maybe they're middle-aged, it doesn't make any difference, and they're just not enjoying the relationship of husband and wife the way they should, they ought to be able to come to a place just like Calvary Baptist Church and see how it's done right. Because it can be done right. And if you got people that seems like right now, people think there's something good about enduring their children rather than enjoying them. And they don't know how to do it. Haven't you been around people that know how to do it? There's nothing anymore that bothers me so much than see a 6'2", 250-pound man has no idea what to do with a 5-year-old boy in a Walmart store. Well, I could make you mad, but I won't go any farther with that. But I don't understand that, Pastor. And yet I'm around families where kids are happy, and they do exactly what mom and dad say. They enjoy, they're outside, they play. I mean, it's all good. I mean, do people need help with that? Salt enhances. When you can help another mom and dad figure out how to raise children. We're not born with all of that knowledge. My wife's family didn't do good financially. My dad only had a third-grade education. For the most part, couldn't read. He didn't do very well. He paid his bills and so forth. But my wife and I grew up in that, and we didn't know how to do it. You know what we did? We asked people. That's a wonderful thing about a local church. I believe the church that God leads us to has got everybody we need there to learn everything we need to learn to lead our lives properly between the Word of God and those people. And we'd look at people that did okay financially. I don't mean just filthy rich. They just did okay. How'd you do that, I'd say. How did you do that? Well, don't ask them that if you're not going to listen. Don't ask them that if you're not going to do it after they tell you. You're wasting those people's time, and those kind of people don't have time to waste. That's the reason they're doing okay. And then I would see people that had happy families and good kids, and everybody's doing good. And you know what Grace and I were doing? How'd you do that? Because we had a son to raise, and we wanted to know how to do it. And we knew there was some we didn't want him to be like. How did you do that? And you can learn how to do it. People need all kinds of help. So if we're the salt of the earth, one of the first things certainly that we do is that we enhance and make things better. Number two, you know, salt heals. Probably if you pass out here and they come pick you up in a vehicle with a siren on it and stuff, you may get salt before you get to the hospital. Something intravenous is going to take place. You know, you can't live without salt. You've got to have a certain amount of salt. It heals. Boy, there's a lot of healing needs to take place out there. We no sooner parked over here, a man came by and knocked on the door of our motorhome, and he gave us a piece of paper. And there was a man 36 years of age that had left a note with his family that he was going to commit suicide 2 days ago, and they're looking for him. There's so much hurt out there, it's unbelievable. You know the reason we don't reach more people for Christ? Because Christ met people at the point of their need. And sometimes we're just out visiting, which we ought to do. But when you see somebody in need, If you can, help them. Have you got an old saying, when I was younger, a friend in need is a friend indeed. When you really need someone to help. Now, talking about healing, I'm so glad I'm as old as I am because I got to grow up in reality. And now kids are growing up in virtual reality. You know, beep, beep, beep. I know I'm making points right now. It's okay. So what did you have? I said, well, I can still remember I'd be about 5 or 6 years old, which meant I would have been bare-headed, no shoes and no shirt, some real fashionable pleated pants because they're 3 inches too big when you sucked them up. That would have been right after World War II. You get about 4 boys like that around, and you don't want them to get bored. Because if boys get bored, a fight's going to break out. That's better than boredom. Amen, brothers? I mean, anything's better than boredom. But I remember time after time, we'd be, what are we going to do? And one guy says, I saw a big wasp nest down by the creek. Oh. So we went all down to the creek, and we've all got a stick about 36 inches long. There'll be about 4 or 5 of us, and we have a council meeting. We're going to surround it and beat it in unison. And we decide how many times we're going to hit it before anybody runs. The first time you hit it, they're coming out of there by cajillions, however many that is. I mean, you couldn't count them. They're coming thick and they're coming fast. And you say, well, how do you keep some guy from leaving first? Well, if he leaves first, we beat him. We don't care what we do. We just don't want boredom. So beating somebody was fine. But I mean, those things would come out of there and we'd all run in different directions and none of us ever escaped. Every time, when those big old Texas wasps, little old sweaty back 6-year-old boy drills in there, you remember that? I do. I'm 75 years old. That's been 70 years, and I still remember it. Well, I used to go through barbed wire fences and bull nettles and all kinds of stuff. And then in other words, I lived with scratches and things like that from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And my dad was from Florida. My mom's from Texas. We lived in Texas. So we made a trip to Florida. I'd never been to the ocean. I couldn't wait. I don't think the wheels on that car stopped when we got on that beach. I was out the door and gone. But I ain't never been in salt water before. And especially with scratches from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. I mean, I was out in there shoulder deep before I could even slow her down, doing about Mach 2, you know. And all of a sudden, stuff was eating me up. I turned around, ran right back out. Mama said, what are you doing out here, David? And I said, Mama, stuff is eating me up. And I don't know what this word means. She said, oh, shaw, boy, just get back out there. You'll be okay. So I did what she said. You know, the next day, those scratches were gone. How many people out here need healing? You need some prospects? You work with anybody who has a problem? Husband and wives, children, families have some issues? That's a great opportunity. That's how people in economic business, they come up with something that people need. Well, you've got what people need more than anything else, whether they know it or not. And you have that opportunity, to help them. Salt enhances, salt heals. Salt also preserves. The Bible says, prove all things and hold fast that which is good. I'm telling you, nobody's had it better than America, but we're really turning it loose, aren't we? I mean, no one can compare with this country. I think sometimes we don't use our brain really good. America's a baby. Do we understand that? Does it occur to you when you read your New Testament, you're reading about Spain, which means it's 2,000 years, it's way past that, but it has to be 2,000 years old to be in the New Testament. Well, stand and tell me why they're not the world power. They've had 10 times as long to do it as we have. Ethiopia's in the Old Testament. Probably 6,000 years. Spain too, probably. In other words, we're young. 200 and something years. World power. I spent all my time on submarines, but I got to ride the aircraft carrier, the USS Ranger, CV-61, after George H.W. Bush sent it over that first Persian Gulf scrap, and I'd never been on an aircraft carrier. And I was just mesmerized because I'm a pilot, I couldn't imagine those planes coming off the end. Those kind of planes they have really have to be moving when they come off the end of it. I think the minimum is close to 200 miles an hour, and it's not very far down there to get there. And even with all the power they have, they can't be going that fast. But they have a catapult. And when I was a kid, we used to get inner tubes and make slingshots and stuff, you know. And it's kind of the way it works. That airplane, this catapult, it lets go of it, it throws it off the end of that carrier. I'm telling you, God saw what our founding fathers were trying to do over here. And he catapulted America to the front. We're not here because of us, my friend. We're here because of God. And because of some people that put everything on the line back behind us. God forbid that we throw it away, or that we would let go of it or lose it. Now, I'm looking at some of you that probably you're getting close to my age category, and most of our time's behind us. But I'll tell you what, I want to do everything I can. You're coming behind me. My son, my grandkids. I've got great grandkids. I wish all of us could be salty salt. You're the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its savor, how shall the earth be salted? Do you understand what the Bible's saying? If you lose your saltiness, you can't do your job. You know, that's not the only thing that it does. Actually, there's 14,000 uses for salt, but I didn't think you'd have time for that this morning. So I just picked out 4, and we got one more that, you know, the salt purifies. Some of the filters now in swimming pools and other things like that, it purifies. And America really does need that. So every text has a burden of proof, I think. I believe this one does. You're the salt of the earth, but if it has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It's ineffective, good for nothing. You just will cast it out. What the text is saying does, if we lose our savor, our saltiness, we lose our worth. So how many of you, get the ladies, I know some men cook. So if you're cooking in the kitchen and you taste it and you say, you know, it's not there yet. My wife sometimes asks me, man, do I love pinto beans. I was raised in World War II and after World War II with pinto beans, cornbreads, fried potatoes, long green onions, and iced tea. You know, you're not far from the kingdom when you got something like that. And she'll try it. She'll say, you want to try a little bit of this? I always want to try food. And, you know, and shake a little bit more of that salt in there. Well, what if you keep putting it? Charity, you finally take the salt shaker and pour the whole thing in there and you try it and they're still no different. Okay, now would it be fair to be as good and straight with God as we are with each other? So, ma'am, how long would you keep salt like that in your cabinet? You're saying that text is being awful rough, that it's good for nothing but to be cast out. But you would do it. You know the job of salt? Be salty. Not hard to understand, is it? You know, I'm glad for that verse, Pastor. It doesn't say I've got to be the best orator, because that'd just be too bad. The best singer. The best piano player. Son, I just made you salt. Would you just be salty? Would you make things better? Would you heal? Would you preserve? That's my earth. I died for it. I need your help. He gave us what we need. Now I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, Brother Hardy, I have never heard about salt becoming unsalty. Well, that's true, because you didn't live back then. You keep it in different kinds of containers. They put it in sacks. And they put those sacks on an earthen floor in a building. And the moisture and the chemical reaction of the ground sucked the brine out of the salt. So, well, what do we do about that? Let's just say it this way. The only way that salt loses its saltiness is when it becomes corrupted. And if you don't know it, we live in a corrupt world. We can't turn around. You can't look at a billboard. You can't walk down through a mall without corruption. And we lose our saltiness little by little. Well, what can we do? 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Pure white salt. All over again. Isn't He good? My son needs me to be, and my wife to be white, clear salt. My grandkids need it. My friends need it. Because it's what God wants. I want their life to be better. This is what it's about. Live a good life here, and then go home to eternity. I'm asking you, no matter how smart you are, no matter how you could preach or sing or whatever else you can do, only salt is going to do the job to take care of God's earth and our families and everyone we're around. So you ask a man, how much are you worth? He begins to think, well, my house is about paid for, I've got that, and my car's paid for, I've got that, and I got a little bit in savings, and how much are you worth eternally speaking? I can answer it for you pretty quick. How salty are you? Because if you lose your savor, you lose your worth. But it's something God gave to us when we got saved, and it's something that can be rejuvenated every time we'll be humble enough to admit it and ask God to forgive us and cleanse us. He's waiting to hear that. And if you pray it, He's going to respond. Let's all stand. Heavenly Father, thank You for Your goodness to us, for each one who is here.